All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. Obviously, typically the Zionists, the Israelis, are moving into Rafah, which is the last town in Gaza. And we'll talk about that tonight and the protests on campuses, both locally and around the world. Stick around and listen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the continuing genocide of the Palestinian people by the Zionist evil. You might listen to that and think, hang on a minute, that's actually what the far left is saying. What Richard just said is what the far left is saying. Correct. I completely agree with the far left on the topic of Palestine. I think that the Zionists are revolting, and I know that this goes against, what Fox News says, goes against, what Breitbart says, and why would that be? Well, we all know why that is. It's because it's controlled by Jews, ladies and gentlemen, those news organisations. Rupert Murdoch is half Jewish, so he controls Fox. And his family, who he's passed it on to, so he's obviously given them the right message to pass on. And Breitbart is also controlled by Zionists. So, that's why those news channels, and that's the whole issue of, Zionism. And I call it the Globo-Zio conspiracy, because you've got the globalists on the left whose agenda is essentially to destroy Western civilization, right? And to weaken Western nations, to flood us with mass immigration, and to, fill us with, vaccines and to make us all obey their totalitarian rules to vaccine us or under, medical emergencies, blah, blah. So that's all the globalist agenda. But on the right, you also have the Zionist agenda, right? So, and essentially they are both Jewish agendas, because the globalists, the globalists really are a group of people who are not just Jewish people, because there are people from all around the world who are globalists, but essentially the leadership structure within the globalists is essentially Jewish intellectuals and Jewish thinkers, Yuval Harari, George Soros, people like this. And then you've got the Zionists, who you don't really need to say that they're Jewish, because they obviously are, because they are all about the Jewish ethno-state, the Jewish homeland of Israel. So, essentially our politics is divided between the globalist side and the Zionist. And as you can see, both sides, really no one in the world has any interest in the globalist agenda or the Zionist agenda. They are both false agendas, and we should support neither of them, because the globalist agenda is poison for our own countries, and the Zionist agenda is essentially supporting, a genocidal ethno-state in the Middle East. And why are we doing that? What do we get out of it? Nothing. Is Israel full of oil? Is Israel like Saudi Arabia or, oil-rich country? No, it isn't. We get nothing for it. So there's no reason we should support Israel, so we shouldn't. I quite like the way that the far left, for example, in Australia at the moment, has copied protests that are going on. And, I think, a la the film June, I think the Muslims could well be our friends, ladies and gentlemen, in this battle. And this is very important. You'll notice there's been a huge propaganda war since September 11, which was obviously done by Mossad, Saudi intelligence. There's been a kind of alliance formed with Saudi Arabia and Israel that was just in the late 90s, so that's something we can go into in another episode. So you've got the Mossad, you've got Saudi intelligence, and you've got the US deep state. At the time, around the time of September 11, you had Paul Wolfowitz, the Jewish, I think he was, I don't know what he was, Secretary of State or something like that. I don't know his exact role, but he was like an architect, a neocon architect of the whole September 11 operation. And obviously then the wars against Afghanistan, against Iraq, against Libya, essentially all the enemies of Israel. I mean, this is, again, something I've said on another report. You look at what's going on. America is being invaded from the southern border, and where is the US military? All over the Middle East protecting Israel, ladies and gentlemen. So that's it. This is the agenda. You've got the globalists, you've got the Zionists, and, the far left at the moment is very, very anti-Zionist. They can't believe what's going on, and they say that what's going on there is genocide. And it's true. If you look at what's going on, it's like, they say, of course, the right-wing argument the Zionists use is, there are terrorists in Gaza, and we're going after them. How many are there? Maybe 100 terrorists, 200 terrorists? There probably are those there. But it's like saying there are 200 terrorists in Sydney. I'm sure there are. But what do? Do we destroy the entire city of Sydney? This is the logic. And there is not a country on earth that will get away with this, except for Israel. Russia could never get away with it. Could it say, oh, there are 200 anti-Russian terrorists in Kyiv and level the city? No. We would have all of Europe invading Russia, or you would have a nuclear war, ladies and gentlemen. So it's extraordinary what is going on. The left is sort of correct. I mean, I'm not quite as radical in their support of the Palestinians. I mean, I don't particularly love the Palestinians. I think, the whole area is a gigantic disaster. But I think there's an interesting quote. We have a lot of enemies in the Muslim world, is the common question. But we never had any before the existence of the State of Israel, which, if you remember, only started existing after World War II. Before that, the Muslim world was quite friendly to us, and I imagine will be quite friendly still. We had a hand in the creation of Saudi Arabia. England has a lot of connections to many of the royal Arab houses. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I know there are moves to kick off the demonstrations at Melbourne University and Deakin University, places like this, but I would stand in solidarity with these people. I think if people want to protest the genocide that's going on against the Palestinian people, that's great, and I wouldn't believe a word that comes out of the news sources like Fox News, and Breitbart on this topic. I mean, I do like these channels and other topics, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, but on this, they just can't be trusted because they're owned by who.